All right, another day in the books. Day 2 of the NRA Law Enforcement Firearms Instructor course for Tactical Shooting Instructor. It was a fun day. We didn't really transition to backup guns. We did a lot of carbine work, focused a little more heavily on carbine and handgun today. Did some pretty cool drills. We did quite a few timed kind of competition things. Only one of them was really set up in terms of articulation as though it was a competition, but everything went really well in terms of performing in those conditions. The guard's running great. Glock 17's running great. It's a brand new RTF frame, brand new Brownell slide. So, it's a little trepidation going to a class like this when you haven't really get a chance to run the gun that you're going to be running. And both of these guns, while I have run them, certainly the pistol hasn't been run very hard prior to this course. I did expect to have any issues. When you have enough done to your gun like I do, RMRs, compensators, that kind of thing, slide cuts, you kind of wonder, if it's going to perform and in this kind of high volume kind of situation. It's been doing great. The guard's been running perfectly. The only issue I've had with the guard is not really has anything to do with the guard. It's the Lawled side folding stock adapter. There's a little button on the side that you press in to break it open, and just underneath that button there's just a tiny little protruding piece of steel. If it's steel, maybe it's aluminum. I think it's steel. Maybe it is aluminum, but it protrudes out just a little bit to cup around that, so you don't accidentally depress it on your body or against something else in the environment and inadvertently fold the stock. The issue with that little bitty thing protruding, if I can get this on camera, I don't know if that's showing. See that right behind my trigger finger knuckle? It digs into the hand a little bit in weapon manipulation stuff. Something that I didn't really notice on a static range, even trying to do dynamic stuff prior to this course. But I'm specifically not running gloves to find that kind of thing. Also to check to see if how I rounded out the trigger guard prior to Cerakoting. Make sure that all that it worked as it did. And that's been fine, but that's the only place that's really chewing me up. Getting used to the shape of the Strike Industries curved angled foregrip, whatever it is. It's been fine. At first, not at this class, but prior to this class, sometimes when I would do a failure drill or something and then have to move my hand back up on the rail, I would hit the back of that and have to go around it. But now I've sort of got the muscle memory to land right on it like I want to. Today was fun. It started out cold and then got hot, and it's going to get warmer this week. So I started out double layered up, and then was burning up by lunchtime. So thankfully at lunch I was able to swap over and shed some layers. But tomorrow we're going to probably do the qualification. So I've got the qualification course here to kind of study it. I studied in the terms of they don't help us with ammo management. In fact, if you run dry, unless the drill is set up to make you run dry, you got to answer questions. So you have to have a good reason for why you ran dry. So I need to know this to kind of set up my mags and all that, how that's going to be set up for the course of fire. The course of fire for the law enforcement division is 100% in terms of speed and accuracy. So anything that's timed, you have to be within the time, and you have to have 100% in the box. And the box is, I don't know the name of the target, but there's basically an A-zone square on the inside. It's just maybe a little longer than the A-zone on like an IPSC target or whatever, or maybe a little wider. Either way, it's slightly larger than that, and that's the end portion. And then in the head, there's a smaller box that's the face, if you will, and that's all headshots have to land there. We did a lot of shooting and moving, and then shooting again, getting in various sitting, kneeling, standing positions. Worked the carbines out to 50 yards today, and doing transitions, and then shooting on the move, closing to engage, and then while we're moving, ammo management, transition to handgun if necessary, and then it's all coach shooters. So you split up in teams basically, and it's typically two-person teams, and then there's always a 1-3-person team. And I've managed to end up in the 3-person team both days, but I think they structured that with some of the faster shooters into those groups so that we can keep pace with the 2-person teams. But and then we kind of coach each other, so the coaches will just scream out, low kneeling, high kneeling, sitting, supine, prone, whatever, and then you just drop wherever you are, trying to stay on time with your peripheral vision, stay on line with your peripheral vision with everybody else that's shooting at the same time. and then shoot whatever you need to shoot from that position. when that was pretty good to go. Everything we're running strong hand and weak hand. So I'm right-handed. I have to do everything left-handed. Double feeds, tap rack bang, flash sight fire, transition the handgun, all that kind of stuff. So, which is interesting. And I try to train left-handed as much as I can. Obviously don't devote the majority of my time to it because that's not where the gun's likely to be. But it's good to get some training on it. I'm glad that I do that because I'm seeing some of these guys, even some of these higher level shooters, really get thrown out of their OODA loop, if you will, when they start transitioning to, especially with failure drills and that kind of stuff. And it's not that the weapon manipulation isn't there; they know that. The time obviously goes down, but what seems to fall off is the moving behind simulated cover, concealment, and the smaller things, putting the weapon on safe in the various stages where they want us to do that. And there's a lot of overlap between my previous training and the military and that kind of stuff at various levels, and then in the law enforcement world, and then according to the law enforcement standard at the NRA. And there's also some differences where, like in the Marine Corps, in a failure drill, we wouldn't put the weapon on safe necessarily. Which you wouldn't even in the law enforcement world for a tap rack bang. I don't think it wants to do that, but certainly on like a L grip tactical reload or side by side or magazine retention first tactical reload, they want the weapon on safe. So there's some things that I'm having to sort of, I hate to say this, but do with an administrative mindset. I'm doing these things because this is how this class wants me to do it, but I know in my personal life, not necessarily how I would do it. One of those things would be, so imagine, I've got my air gun here, imagine that, shooting the slide lock, my pistol goes dry. What I do is I come to this position as I'm manipulating the mag release, which is that flick. I've never had an issue with a mag not dropping free in any gun I've ever had. Beretta 9mm, XDs, Glocks, Lone Wolf. I mean, they've all flung the mag out doing that. And the NRA is very specific about pressing the magazine while it's still in a vertical attitude and then bringing it in. So I have to kind of retrain myself temporarily, if you will, for these courses of fire. And then another thing that I think is a good principle that I've picked up from these NRA courses, has definitely been hit hard in this course, probably harder than the other ones I've taken, is that just because there's a way that feels really good for me, if there are some things that there's a best way, okay? And there's some things that aren't. It's just what works for you. L grip side by side for tactical reload, for example. I mean, there is no better way necessarily. But you need to be, as an instructor, and keeping in mind this is an instructor development course, you need to be proficient in all of these methodologies and proficient both in right and left hand so you can show lefties how to do it. It's the wrong way to instruct, to just do it right-handed and then say, all right, now you do that left-handed. Because unless your weapon is absolutely ambidextrous and their weapon is absolutely ambidextrous, these things don't translate in the exact same body mechanics. So, it's easy for a guy like me who prefers an L grip tactical reload to just be really good at it right-handed, be pretty good at it left-handed, and then never do the side-by-sides or never do whatever else. So it's good that, it's something I'm going to take back with me as an instructor, to make sure that I know all the ways that make sense to do something and be able to demonstrate them proficiently right and left-handed. It's not something I'm struggling with, but it's a principle that I probably need to focus a little harder on. One good thing from the day, I mentioned in some other classes that I've taken, handgun, shotgun, patrol rifle, that there's typically some sort of competition element to it. It's timed and with accuracy standards and time standards, and every NRA course, I've been the guy that walks away as the winner from that competition that the coin went out for, and thankfully was able to make that work today. It was the Vice Presidente, where you're facing 3 targets and you have 6 rounds in a magazine and then 6 rounds in a backup magazine. And when the beep, you draw, you fire 1 2 1 2 1 2, and then a combat reload, and then 1 2 1 2 1 2, or you can go back the other direction whenever it makes sense to you, where your body position is related to the targets. The par time, I think, for that was 10 seconds. Bear in mind, while that's not competition fast, that's these people running duty gear and that kind of thing, and vest and plate carriers, and some. I was running a vest today, and retention holsters and all that kind of stuff. And so we ran it. Everybody got to run it twice. If you missed outside these little zones where we were supposed to be shooting at, The time doesn't matter. They want to tell you what it is. His exact words is, "Nobody cares what your time is if you miss." So, and that's a good point. I believe I had the 2 fastest times. Both of my times were the 2 fastest times, but they only went with your fastest time, and so I got to walk away from another school with a challenge coin. The only other school I'm really interested in taking is precision rifle, which in the law enforcement world, it's not a sniper school, it's a precision rifle school from a law enforcement perspective, which is typically 200 yards and in, and that's well within my experience with a carbine. But when you've won this at every school you've ever done, and if there's anything that I would say is my weak point, it'd probably, maybe at 200 yards, it may even be shotgun, and I got the coin in the shotgun course, but it'll be something that's not in my strongest suit. It's not something I spend a lot of time doing, shooting on a bipod or in the prone all the time. I'm more of a CQB minded kind of guy, so now that's really the last course I'm going to probably take before I start transitioning back into other courses, or retake maybe tactical shooting or shotgun. Maybe I'll take tactical shotgun, but now I feel an immense amount of pressure if I take that course in a few years or a couple of years to get the coin again. So that's good. So this video is going a little long. Tomorrow we're going to probably do the qualification course, like I said, and tomorrow night we're doing the night fire. So tomorrow's video will be a little later in the day posting, so y'all just bear with me if you're actually watching these things. But appreciate you tuning in, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you after the day and night tomorrow.